I think every kid needs a hero. My grandmother was this person who, throughout my life, I could always run to her, and she would tell me, like, I could do it. She was praying for that, and she had absolutely no doubt I would do it, and she will even remember the names of my teachers of the hardest subject in university, and she was praying for them. It was amazing, you know.
We actually call her grandmother Nying, which is the Chinese word for grandmother on the father's side of the family.
I call him Grandpa Foot.
We, in our native language, in Hindi, we call them Dada and Dadi.
My other grandmother would be Maman Bozorg, which is Persian for grandma.
Michechu means old woman, thinking at Rwanda.
I called her Safta, which is a Hebrew word for grandma.
Everybody called her Mamitita.
We called her Mima and Dede.
Grandma.
Hi, I'm Steph.
And I'm Robin. Welcome to Stories from Grandparents,
the podcast where we share stories about and from grandparents. On today's episode, we have a standalone interview with my friend Merirosi, who talked to us about her grandmother, Mamitita.
Well, a part of the reason that we decided to make it a standalone is because she is just so passionate about capturing her relationship with her grandmother. And again, that was one of the kind of core ideas behind this podcast. And you can just hear the love in her voice when she talks about her.
Yeah, so you really can. One of the things I really liked about Merirosi's interview and her story about her grandmother is sort of like the arc that it takes and the impact that it's had on her life. So she began her life with her grandmother taking care of her, and then things kind of changed and she began taking care of her grandmother. And I thought that was just such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's really true. The caregiving role switch. That's was the underlying theme in this episode. And we hope you guys enjoy.
My name is Merirosi Vergara Estrada. I come from Guayaquil, Ecuador, a beautiful country in the south. And my grandmother, who I'm going to share about, was Trifila Agricola Manzano Franco. We never call her Trifila, or everybody called her Mamitita.
What did your grandmother mean to you?
Yeah, my grandmother was my mom. I grew up with her. I grew up with my both parents, but well, I was telling you that when my parents got married, they were really young. Well, my mother was like 22, 23. My father was like on her late 20s, but he was a young engineer. He was just starting his career, and they didn't have enough money for a nanny. My grandmother at that time was working for a rich lady, for a rich family, and she was like the butler for this family, like an administrator. So she left that job and came to live with my parents, a new marriage, to raise me. And I think when kids experience these first years really, really close to their to grandparents, is really strong. She was very generous, loving, compassionate. And she would do everything she could for others with responsibility. And I really, really admire that. She had a friend in a retirement home. And at that point, of course, she was not in a retirement home. She was living by herself. She was on her 80s. And this friend, La Señora Otilia, was, from the beginning, she was a former client of the hairdressing salon. Oh. Can you believe that? So 50 years of friendship. And I remember once, so I drove by, and this was not a big retirement home. It was like 20, 25, maybe 30 people, no more. So I would just stop by the main door, and I would drop my Mamitita. I was not parked yet. There was a street vendor there. He was selling ripe plantains, maduros. the ripe plantains is very sweet, and they put cheese in the middle. It's really inexpensive. Maybe it's like 2 for $1 or something like that. So I think I bought 1 or 2. And I give it to my mamitita, and I said, okay, just take them inside, and I will just park, and I will come back and join you, right, for the visit. So when I went back into the retirement home, my mamitita was with La Señora Otilia in the living, but they were not alone. There were like 15 other people, and they were not just eating the ripe plantains by themselves. My mamitita had stood up, and she took her ripe plantain and she made it like 10 or 15 pieces. And she was giving a little tiny piece to every single person there. They lived in the retirement home, you know? And like kids, they were showing their hand like this, you know, they were with hand extended. And others were like, I'm missing, you know. It was sweet. Yes. And at the same time, it was heartwarming. It was like, oh my God, that was my grandmother. That was my mamitita. If she will have a ripe plantain, she will make it. She will make it 4. And if there was one more person, she will make it 5. And I was like, so I went outside. I bought all the other ripe plantains that the gentleman had on his push cart. Oh, yeah. Of course, they were like 20 people, and they were receiving a bite each. So I bought all the other. How many do you have? 10. Okay, that's $3. I think, I don't know, but that was my grandmother. She always played the role like a little mom. You know, she was always, when the nephews and the nieces had problem at school, her brothers or sisters would say like, oh, you know, the school is calling me to go because I don't know whom has, can you go? Because, you know, you know how to talk to them. You know how to talk to the teacher. So she will solve all this, you know, she will do the face to talk to the teachers, you know. She will do all this stuff. Oh, you know, the niece, my daughter, she's pregnant. And she's not married, and we don't know who's the father. So things like that. My grandmother will find out who's this guy, and she will go and knock the door to his wife and say, "Okay, so your husband has my niece pregnant, and he needs to be responsible." So she was always the one who was
spicy. Yeah.
She was always the one who put her face. At some point, I became her caregiver, her friend also, you know. As I was growing up, I just, little by little, found myself in situations where my grandmother started asking me for example, to bring her to the doctor. I can remember the first time she told me, "Mijita, I need to talk to you. Do you have a minute?" And then she said, well, this is happening to me. And she explained the situation that was very private. And she said, I need to go to the doctor. And I was in shock, you know, because I don't remember if I was a teenager or in my early 20s, but I didn't know which doctor. I didn't know how much it would cost. I didn't know if that was causing her pain. I didn't know how far I could go on my questions. I was not the person I am today. I wish it would have. I wish I would have the maturity I have today to be able to handle many things in a different way.
Yeah.
When we're in our 20s, we're studying, and we're combining that with our personal life. We want to date, right? Or we're hanging out with friends, right? And many times for me, it was frustrating because, well, my mamitita needs this, right? Or when I started working, for example, my income, I was helping my mamitita, with some needs.
Like financially?
Yeah, financially, yes. Yeah. I have to, of course, absolutely recognize that my father, even when he divorced my mother, even when he remarried, he never stopped supporting my grandmother. Never.
Yeah.
He paid for everything you can think about. Housing, everything.
Oh, wow.
Yes, absolutely. He considered her as a mother. But my father was not, in the traditional, way, a woman. He was not going to discuss medical issues with her. She was not going to do it with him. So I would find myself circumstantially in that position. She will not call my mom. She will not talk about these things to my dad, so she will tell me. And my other sister was much younger than me. So then I just started circumstantially. I remember I was at university on my 20s, early 20s, until my mid 20s, and my life was it was between university, well, my common life of any university student, and also a lot about my grandmother, right? And just to give you an example, any Tuesday for me will be like, oh, okay, I would drive to my grandmother to physiotherapy, drive her back home, and then go to university, try to fit her in my schedule. It was different for me. It was different than from other people, but it was really nice. In some ways it was hard.
Responsibility, but it sounds rewarding. Rewarding, but it is responsibility, right?
Yeah, yes. And we complained, and I complained at that time, and many times I was frustrated, right? I was like, why don't we share this more equally between my brothers and sisters, and why me, blah, blah, blah. But I learned a lot.
Yeah.
I learned a lot. I think that shaped my character and my personality a lot.
Yeah.
I moved to France for a master's degree. And I remember I lived in France for 2 years. I was 25 when I moved to France. My mamitita was used to our holiday trips to outside of the country. Not only mine, but my brothers and sisters. But never, she was not used to have us outside of the country for many years. So when I left, I remember a close friend of my mamitita calling me on my phone and saying, you cannot leave. You don't understand, but you can simply not leave. Who is going to take care of your mamitita? So it's true that she had everything, my father was supporting her financially, but I was the person who was really, really close to her, who will say, okay, we need to go to the supermarket. She needs to go to the doctor. Her glasses are broken. She's not. I don't know. She doesn't look good. She's walking weird. Things like that. And who will also spend leisure time with her. I used to also do that. And when I was very tired or I didn't want to, because that's true. When we are caregivers, we're not all the time with a big smile, doing things with, I'm so happy to take care of my grandmother.
It's not a novelty anymore, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. Many times we are tired and we are frustrated and we cry. When I went back to Ecuador from France,
yes,
it had been, 2 years after, my grandmother, I could notice she had, she was much older. She had age.
Yeah.
More. She had lost weight, things like that. Physically, you recognize some changes after 2 years. And then, so it was good for her. I was back in, and by then, my grandmother was already losing a little bit her memory progressively. It was not dramatic, but it was progressive. It was increasing. I didn't know anything about psychiatry or medicine or anything.
How did you start to notice?
She used to tell me. She was telling me. She used to take notes, and for years, she always thought. She told many times about, when I'm gonna die, when I'm not gonna be here, things like that. Because your abuelita is losing her memory. No. So I was all the time like, okay, let's not talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
But so I knew she was forgetting, right? And then one day, my dad started calling me. I remember I was working in Peru, and I used to had to take. I had to go out of the office and outside really to take the calls because my grandmother, her loss of memory was progressing quickly. And she was, for example, sometimes waiting all dressed up because I was supposed to pick her up.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad was calling me like, talk to her. We cannot convince her that it's night, that she's supposed, and, things like that. So I was on the phone talking, and I was, so a few months after arriving to Peru, I went back to Ecuador for holidays. And my father talked to me and he said, you need to find a retirement home because this is not working and you're not here anymore and you're outside of the country and I cannot run and solve the problems, when the lady who's taking care of her calls him. So I did. I went for a week to Guayaquil, and I didn't do this in the best way. I should have taken more time. But in that week, I researched about all the retirement homes that were at that time available in Guayaquil. So the first one, I couldn't pay it. I took the second one.
Mm-hmm.
It was a beautiful place. It was a beautiful, the building was nice, very clean. I moved her in. I didn't manage it well because I remember first time I told her, Mamtita, I told her, I tried to talk about it. What do you think? And she was very quiet. I couldn't I can't say if she was quiet because her mind was somewhere else and she was not understanding what I was saying, or if she was upset because that was also her way to show she didn't agree.
Yeah.
To just stay quiet. She was never a person who will yell or scream. So, and then I said, okay, let's just go and check it out and everything. And that day, visiting, I decided to take it. And I did all the paperwork just right there. I showed the place to my mamitita. She was just quiet, like she was not there. So that was sad because she didn't give her opinion. She didn't say do not know or anything. I remember I had been all day doing things with my mamitita and my uncles, and I was extremely, extremely tired. I was exhausted, and it was like 10 p.m. and I was, I took most of her things there, and or a couple of her things there. And I remember I asked my father to pick me up at the retirement home. And I remember being with my mamitita, and she was holding my hand, and she was, please do not go. And I left. I couldn't stay. I needed to sleep. I needed to eat. I was so exhausted. I needed to be out of that place. At the same time, I understand that she was afraid. Even with her senile dementia, she was afraid. Like a kid that you live in the nursery. Maybe she couldn't understand that I was going back the next morning, but I still, when I remember that, I feel that I was not very faithful, but that's life. So that's how she went. That's how she arrived to the retirement home. She stayed there like 3 years, 4 years, 3 years, I think. I had been 1 year in Canada and a little bit less than a year, and I found a good job, a stable job that was paying me pretty well. And then I had more resources, and then I hired a young lady that was an angel fallen from heaven. This lady, I put a post on Facebook to my friends, and I said, I need urgently somebody who will do this. I just needed somebody, what today we call, today I know that it's called an occupational therapist, or a recreational therapist. I said, I need somebody, but who will be my eyes in the nursery, in the retirement home. So I start paying this lady to go 2 or 3 times per week and playing with my grandma. At that time, I know how she was, my grandmother, because I have very, very, very extremely good friends in Ecuador, and they used to go visit my grandmother without knowing her, just because they knew I was in Canada, that I was really worried, things were not going good. They used to go, and the first time, or one of the first times, a friend of mine went to do this type of visit. She told me, well, I spent there, I don't know, X amount of time, and your grandmother was lying down, staring at the roof, and she didn't move. She didn't talk. She didn't react. But she was not sick at the same time, right? So apart from dementia, she didn't have some. So she was like depressed or something.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what this lady started doing is, she was visiting and we just start inventing games, like, okay, so buy a ball. And she would throw the ball to my grandmother. My grandmother would throw it back to her. Things like that. I would say, okay, today's ball is
activate the brain.
Just activate it. And, okay, my grandmother likes plants. Go to the market and buy 2-3 plants, very inexpensive, and put them in a corner of the bedroom. And every time you go, put her in a schedule. You go on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and she has to water the plants. Things like that, to have this young lady there, that was a huge, huge help.
Yeah.
So her health started improving. You have no idea how much. A lot. Then she was talking with me on the phone. She was laughing. She was much more active.
Yeah, just having that youthful spirit.
And one day, it was from out of the blue. I told Lola, you know what? Buy her a mirror. I was not doing a big analysis. I just said, buy her a mirror. I don't know. When you go visit her, you can also do her nails, and then ask my grandmother to do your nails. Even if she doesn't do it perfectly, it's okay. After that, you can clean it. But, make her feel that she's needed.
Yeah.
That she's important, that she has a task to do when you arrive, that somebody requires her to do something, But our grandparents, nobody asked them anything. Nobody cared. We care, and at the same time, we don't worry that they know that we care.
Yeah. They don't feel useful.
Exactly. They don't feel useful, because before they used to know everything. And now they have almost no power, they don't have the money, or they don't manage the money, and they are something else who's faster. There's always somebody who do things faster, than them. So we don't wait. We're like, oh, I can do it. If they are going to do their hair, oh, no, I can do it, and we try to do good, but we make them feel useless. So one day I said to Lola, buy a mirror, and okay, so let her ask her that she needs to hold the mirror while you do her hair. Well, I never thought about that, but Lola says that when my mamacita hold the mirror in front of her face, she was extremely happy. And then we were thinking about that, analyzing that, and we were like, wow, for how many months or years, I don't know, maybe months, she didn't saw her face. She didn't see her face on the mirror. Maybe she didn't remember how she looked like. Because in the retirement home, there are different types of retirement home, but it was clean and big space and everything. But everybody's doing something for you. Yeah. So you're not required to go in front of the mirror to do your hair, right? There's somebody who approach you and do your hair, change your clothes, put you in the bathroom, takes you out of the bathroom. And so you don't have to approach the mirror. And there are no mirrors around, so to avoid accidents. So suddenly people doesn't even remember their own faces.
Do you want to talk about her passing and what you did to celebrate her life?
Sure. So my grandmother passed away when she was 92 years old, 92 and a half. She had breast cancer, and she also had advanced senile dementia. I went I traveled to Ecuador. She had a pneumonia, and I traveled to Ecuador to see her. She recovered from the pneumonia after a month. She recovered, and she went out of the hospital, and she had a second pneumonia. And then when I rushed back to Ecuador, it was too late. So when I arrived, she had already passed away a few hours ago. That was terrible. That was awful. I know. I was imagining that she would pass in my arms.
Yeah.
That I wanted to be there.
Do you feel guilt?
Great question. I felt guilt for a long time. Before my mamitita passed away, and after, a lot. It was weird because for many people, I did a good job, and they were like, "Oh, don't worry," you know. When we're not experiencing the loss, it's easy to explain to the person who's experiencing it why it happened and how normal is it, you know. So everybody was explaining me like, "Oh, it's normal. She was 92 and a half. That was her time to leave, and you did a great job. Look at everything you have done." But I was feeling guilty for so many things. I was like, why I left her in the retirement home?
Mm-hmm.
Why I couldn't sleep at least that night? I could have slept the first night with her and hold her hand. Nothing was going to happen to me for one more one night, not with not a good sleep or not having dinner. Nothing was going to happen to me, and I didn't sacrifice that night, right, for her. I was feeling guilty for moving to another country. When I moved from Peru to Canada, I didn't stop in Ecuador. I moved directly. So I also felt guilty about that, and I had to come back, right? I had a life by then here. There was no reason to go back to Ecuador, neither to leave. I mean, and suddenly I think a year after, 2 years after, circumstantially, I just saw this ad on this ad or an article or something that on internet that the City Hall has this program called Commemorative Trees. So I read about it and I love it. The City Hall allows people to plant trees to honor our beloved ones that have passed away. It can be a tree or it can be a chair, you know, like a bench on a park. Last year, well, my partner did it too. So we both did it together. She did it for her two parents, for her mom and her dad. So last year we had the privilege, the opportunity to choose Strathcona Park.
Ooh, lovely.
It's nice. It's beautiful. Yeah. And it's next to the river also. Yes. So my grandmother was born close to the river. So it remembers me Guayaquil, it remembers me my grandmother. It's a beautiful park also. It's close to downtown, to home. So we chose a space and we plant 3 trees in a row. In the program, you can also choose a type of tree. I chose a katsura. It's a Japanese tree. I chose it because it becomes yellow it becomes yellow when it's big, and my grandmother's favorite color was yellow. You can even put a plaque on that. A plaque on that, and you can choose if you want to. You can choose what you want to write on. So that's the next step. That's my next project, to put the plaque, and now in the spring, on the summer.
What do you think you'll write?
That's hard. I don't know what to write. There are so many. Can I put I wish they could open it and then start
the book.
Then just start the video, the podcast.
Yeah. Can you tell me about the ceremony when you planted the tree with all your friends?
Yeah. Well, the city plants the tree, and the city plants a tree, and be careful, they don't tell you when. Everything is so automatized. It's very automatic. It's very organized. That I wanted to find out when was exactly the moment, you know. And so now when I contact them to find out or to track it, to follow up on that, they said, "Oh, okay, it has already been planted." So I wanted to have a little ceremony, a little party, a little meeting with my close friends here that are my family here, the people I count on, the people who's close to my heart, and tell them a little bit about who was Trifila Manzano. So Stephanie was there. Thank you so much for being there. I was surprised that all of my friends were there. We were 10 people, and it was raining that day. It didn't matter. Everybody was there. We were all with umbrellas. I made a circle around the tree, and I just told them a little bit about my mamitita, and that was that tree was to honor her. It was also for me important that I didn't want to be the only one in Ottawa to know it. I want other people who live around here to stop by and say, "Hey, Mamitita is there," and to think about her. And yeah, so that was our celebration. I browned yellow roses. Yellow was her favorite color. So I had all these yellow roses, and I asked everybody to pick up a rose and put it on the tree. And then they were extremely generous in joining me home for drinks and eating something also. And I prepared 2 or 3 things, 2 or 3 treats that my grandmother used to make.
Nice.
So that was also,
just a way to remember. Yeah, that's lovely.
Well, just 2 weeks ago, my partner and I went there on a Sunday. It was all covered, all white. I'm going to show you the pictures. Yeah. It was all covered, all white, plenty of snow, full of snow. And the trees are not, they don't have leaves now, right? You can just see it. But it's still, they look strong. And they look strong. The trees are there in the middle of the snow next to a tree. And it was so refreshing, to go and sit on the bench, look at the trees, and think about our mothers. Remember them, honor them, celebrate their life.
Yeah.
If these podcasts and all the interviews you're doing could help, they could help for grandkids and for kids to approach their grandparents, to enjoy them, to live, to have fun, and to not forget them. And in the circumstances we have, just do it. Just help. Just enjoy them.
Thank you for listening to Stories from Grandparents. If you have any interest in submitting stories, or if you want to participate on the podcast, please send us an email at storiesfromgrandparentspodcast@gmail.com.